We want to go to a live press conference, brand new information happening out of Redington Beach in Pinellas County, where crews are currently working to rescue 5 whales in distress. Let's go to that live.
Others like Sudorcas do the same thing, so it's very frustrating for those of us who work with them because they commit for the wrong reasons in the wrong areas and put themselves into danger over sometimes weeks of time before they hit the beach. That means they're not strong individuals. So the survival rate for these is based on being able to get to them, support them, and provide them with the things that they might need, which we don't often know. So Dr. Shelley Marquardt and her team have been analyzing what they can from a visual perspective. They're pulling blood on everybody because in some cases you'll find they disappoint you by starting to die on you while you're even trying to help them. So we have to go with the idea that they could be critical, even though physically they look strong, mentally they've been through a lot, and we don't know what kind of disease processes they might be dealing with over this last number of potential weeks. There is some speculation that they came from a group that was on the East Coast. We know that they migrate from the East Coast down around the Florida Peninsula and into the Gulf to feed. We don't know what the exact timelines are on that. So taking all that into account, what we're trying to do with this group of 5 is we have resources for taking 3 of them out as far as we can. We're utilizing Mote Marine, who has a grant to actually follow them with satellite tags. That'll allow us to see what are they doing behaviorally, because we don't always know. Somebody has to choose to be the leader in that group. If we send all 5 out, there's a good chance potentially that all 5 will not do well. So we feel that it's better to split the group, send 3 out that are of a similar age. Hopefully someone will make the choice to lead the group and take them offshore. The other group has a young animal in it. That animal may potentially be having more problems, so we feel at this stage the other 2 will go into a rehab facility. It's not at Clearwater Marine Aquarium. It's actually up in Tarpon Springs, which has just been built, and it has a functional pool that can handle 2 animals. So that way we're not committing all of them to the same potential decision relationship. If the 2 do okay, then that buys them time to make a better plan down the road to be able to get those 2 out. The ideal situation for those 2 will be to take them further offshore. So a lot of what we're doing is we're in a learning process. We know from the satellite tagged animal from 2 years ago, we know what it did. It went down to Cuba, went by the Bahamas, it was feeding. The satellite tag from Mote will be able to tell us whether they're acting normal and going in the right direction. Then we can potentially intervene again if we get the chance to do that. So what we're trying to explain to you is this is an A-type choice and a B-type choice. This is something that changes with every little bit of information we get. But we feel that the plan at this stage, the best way to do this is to split the group, let one try to make it on its own, take the smaller individual with one supportive individual because they don't like being alone, and hold them for a day or 2 to be able to get more logistics put together to have even another choice for them. Make sense?
When will you bring the ones out and bring the other ones in? When will that happen?
They're currently preparing to bring the 2 out now. Now the other thing is, since we have 3 boats to make an attempt with the other 3, what happens when they come into shore? As we mentioned, if they vocalize to each other, I'm not leaving you because I'm not supposed to. So if we can only take 3 out, they may call back to the other 2 who'll call them back in. So we're trying to give them the best choice scenario in both directions. So the idea would be to take the 2 now, take away their vocalization potential, get the other 3 out, and give them the best chance of doing well.
When can we see you move the 2 out? How difficult is that to do?
It takes a little bit of good strong backs, but it's been done many times, and this group actually helped with the stranding back in 2017. So Clearwater are really good at the transport relationship, and they've got the staff necessary to be able to support those 2 individuals to buy us time for them.
The 2 smaller ones, are one of those the ones that were sick and the reason they came in?
No, not likely. We think that in most cases what will happen, and this is somewhat, we're getting into scenarios we don't know for sure, but what seems to happen is the leadership ends up either lost or questionable, takes them into the wrong place, and everybody files with them.
So it's possible all 5 of them are healthy, right?
It's possible, but if they're related to earlier strandings that were occurring around the peninsula and up in Georgia, they've been away from their food sources for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we have no idea. So they could be healthier than some because they haven't actually been sitting on the beach, but the reality is we don't know how long this has been going on.
What is the concern that
There's always that concern that if we get them out there, they might turn back around. That's the reason for the satellite tags and utilizing the expertise at Mote Marine to be able to follow them by satellite. So that'll still teach us a lot, and if we need to, we can re-intervene again. We'll have a much better idea of what happens in this scenario. So is this the way to go in the future, or is this not the way to go in the future?
Can you explain, like manatees, we see them swimming up and down the coast all the time here. How are they able to navigate around these shallow waters where a whale who was actually in the same family cannot?
Well, manatees and whales are quite different. They're not really in the same family. You're looking at a whole different relationship between an inshore species like manatees that are raised here, so they know how to deal with the surf and everything else. This species does not deal with surf, does not deal with shelves and shallow water. The classic thing that's happened for some of these in the past is the Keys are bad for them, the West Coast is bad for them. Over the time I've been involved, we've rescued a number of these type of relationships from the West Coast. They just hit and hit and hit as they go back down the coast, and the numbers drop off and they all end up dying. So now's the time to be able to try something and hope that we can do something for them.
Can you describe the mechanism for physically moving them?
The question is, the mechanism for moving these guys is basically to put stretchers underneath them and then carry them in that stretcher either to a transport truck, or the three individuals, we're going to transfer them over to 3 different boats that are on their way here. And once they're on the boats, it's just a matter of transporting them that way. There's not a whole big deal to it, especially with these experienced people. We've got FWC here, we've got CMA, we're going to have some people from Mote. All of them are involved in the stranding network that is managed by the National Marine Fisheries Service, and that's under NOAA. So the stranding network is set all along the whole coastal United States as well as Alaska and Hawaii, and it's run extremely well and extremely efficiently. So you can't ask for a better team than to have the NIMS team here plus all the others who are here to be able to make this work. Yes?
Is there a plan to get the other 3 individuals out into the water before the tide goes out and might drown?
Yes. The boats are on their way for those 3. We have to bring in additional boats. So we need 3 separate boats. We can't double team them on a boat.
They're going to be high and dry.
Well, we'll keep moving out with the tide. So we're not going to stay in the same place on the waterway.
So they're getting a ride out to deeper water.
Yes.
The place where the 2 are going up in Carbon Springs, who runs that facility?
Clearwater Marine Aquarium. They've been putting together that plan over the last 5 or 6 years, and we have a pool there that is capable of handling 2 of the individuals.
For the sake of background, can you set a scene in terms of where we are and what type of animals and maybe their ages and what beach we're on and what time they were found and kind of how the discovery came to be? Because I don't have that background for the audio.
Well, this is Redington Beach, and evidently they were found as early as 7 o'clock this morning milling around in the surf. Again, showing that group or herd behavior, as we would call it, or pod behavior, depending on who you want to talk to. So they were intercepted by some people here on the beach who called in Clearwater Marine Aquarium because they end up covering this part of the coast in association with the Marine Mammal Path Lab. So that's who we have here from FWC as well as FWC law enforcement. So the way these teams are put together is it's usually an all-hands-on-deck relationship with the host group, which would be Clearwater, working with FWC with logistics and with equipment right here. Then you call in Mote Marine. I'm associated with CMA, and I've been doing this for about 35 years. I was at SeaWorld for 20 years. So I have the background in terms of dealing with about a dozen of these type of events.
Can you give some background on the animals? Just say, you know, what type of animals and males and females and ages and kind of what the grounds that they live in and their life expectancies and so on. Do you have any background?
Well, if you want to look at at least a little bit of that, these are pilot whales. There are 2 species of pilot whales, long and short fin. This group is commonly found off the coast, but they are not used to shallow water. So the reason they're in trouble is they're in shallow water, 1, and they're probably leaderless at this point. The sizes range from about 10 feet to 14 feet. Ages, we don't know. We think someone like at a 10-foot range, who knows, could be 2 to 3 years of age. So a young animal, a juvenile, not a full adult. The others, if you look at their body conformation, large dorsal fins, bulky bodies, those are young adults to adults. They can range up to maybe 3,000 pounds or so. So these guys are ranging in weight from probably about 800 to 1,900 pounds.
I'm hearing discussion of the word quarantine. Can you talk about any specifics related to their medical condition or their symptoms or anything that you know right now?
Not at this stage. We don't have enough information on them to know if they're dealing with an infectious disease of any sort. Quarantine is usually done if you're going to get support from some groups such as SeaWorld and CMA. You don't want to bring a disease process into your group. That's why they have an offsite. So that's your stopgap to keep from worrying about that. So where they're going is their quarantine, but it's also where they're going to live for the next few days.
What type of symptoms are the animals having right now?
Right now, they're basically just showing symptoms of respirations that might be a little elevated. We end up with some of them showing GI problems because they may have been off food. They could have a number of things, but it would be speculation. We don't know from what we can learn here everything that's wrong with them. That'll happen as a result of Shelley Marquardt and her group figuring that out after the blood work goes in.
Because this is such an unusual situation for them, how do they deal with being held like this for hours?
It's new enough for them to where they don't know it's bad. Let's put it that way. Same thing will happen when we're rescuing manatees. In many cases, they're not going to resist because it's strange enough to where I don't know I need to resist. But it's also potentially stressful. So that's what we have to be careful of. We're being good with them. We're not stressing them. We're not being noisy around them. So these people are experienced enough to know how to do this. And that's one of the beauties of having the group at CMA and the others working together.
Are the whales communicating with each other? Do you hear them talking to each other?
They can communicate on a lot of different levels in terms of decibels and frequency. So they could be communicating at a level we can't pick up. We know that the little one likes to be near the other one. So there's comfort in that because they come from a big family situation. So that's why we want to keep at least two animals together with any of the choices we make.
How do you know that?
Gets a little more antsy. And it's in their nature. For the most part, you want to keep at least two together.
Is that a parent-child? Do we know that?
No, the two that are getting along are two males, actually, at least at this point. Now, that's based on, we can't look and see what they are. We have to do it more by feeling the difference between the openings underneath. So don't quote me on that, but at this point, it's supposition that they're probably both male, and that's okay. Males sometimes buddy up, just like in our species.
Can you speak to the biology of the animal in terms of where they generally reside or their migratory patterns or anything?
I think that's what we were talking about earlier. A recap on the migration relationships. We know a little bit based on satellite tags from a past stranding. What we're looking at is these animals are probably showing a migration, a feeding pattern coming down along the east coast and then going up the west coast of Florida. They stay for a while and most likely they go back. The individual from 2017 that was released after being at SeaWorld after successfully rehabbing actually made that journey all the way back up to North Carolina. We know from some researchers in North Carolina there's definitely a group of whales that lives up there, and it may be that they break off, so we'd have to refer you back to those people from that. Otherwise, it's speculation. As soon as the other truck gets here, the two will be loaded, and the other boat should be getting here in the next hour or so, we're hoping.
I have one last question. Why do animals strand?
The question is, what's the general question of why do animals strand? We look at it at two main reasons. They're either sick or they're intoxicated, or in the case of a mass stranding species, the leaders or someone else has brought them inshore. You can see an increase in strandings potentially if that is a group that's having problems and you have terrible storms or a hurricane. That might drive them a little closer to shallow water. But what you're looking at for a lot of the cetaceans, which includes the whale and dolphins, we're looking at dolphins that are inshore, near shore, offshore, and migrating. So everybody's not the same and everybody has different reasons for doing it. But generally we consider them either ill or intoxicated until proven otherwise. Or leaderless in this case.
Tide's headed out, right? I mean, is that a factor? Are you guys racing the clock at all as far as the tide's concerned?
We want to get them out as soon as possible, yes. Anything else?
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll do another briefing in an hour unless things change.
And you've been just listening to brand new information live from on that whale rescue effort underway right now in Redington Beach in Pinellas County, where we just learned 5 distressed whales stranded off the coast of Pinellas County. We've learned that they are common in the Gulf, but may have gotten stranded because they got into shallow water or are leaderless or are sick. And we just learned that 3 of the whales will be sent back into the Gulf with satellite tags. The other 2 will be sent to a rehab facility in Tarpon Springs. FWC officials working with the University of Florida at this minute to figure out how to properly rehab the 5 distressed whales. That's all, again, developing off the coast of Pinellas County. We're gonna